Hello everyone, I am Tessellating Hexagons, and I'm sort of surprised. We had quite a long gap between the first two auto-qualifying songs of this year, and now Italy and the next one, France, are coming in comparatively rapid succession. And at some point over the coming weeks, I will clean up the remainder of the auto-qualifying songs, but now is not the time to talk about them. As I said, it is time to talk about La France, who will this year be represented by Miss Fatima Zarra Hafdi, otherwise known as La Zarra. I'm not sure if should I trill the R, should I go La Zarra, should I just say La Zarra and just leave it at that? Whatever the case may be, she's bringing a song called Évidemment. I've been told that putting the acute accent over the E is optional when the E is a capital letter, but if it's lowercase, you have to have the acute accent there. And it is, well, the song is entirely in French. The title means evidently or obviously, and is not to be confused with the English word évidement, which is the scraping away of diseased tissue in surgery. Anyway, music by Fatima Zarra Hafdi and Ahmed Sagir, and lyrics by those two in addition to Yannick Rastogi and Zachary Raymond. And, well, I think this fits in pretty well with France's general game plan regarding Eurovision in the 2020s, in that it's diverse and different and it's a rollicking good time. So let's go a little bit deeper, shall we? And try to forget that I talked about diseased tissue and surgery at any point in this video. Okay, so story time. Around this point in the Eurovision season, when I was listening to songs for the first time, I happened to be going through a bit of a depressive low. So when it came time to listen to this song, I didn't know whether it was the song's fault or my own or some combination of the two, but I came away from it with very little to say. Not necessarily for better or for worse, but just I didn't have any words. I couldn't find anything to specifically react to. It's really just sort of a straight-laced quality pop song, and that's pretty much it. I can't go, wow, it's so different and crazy, or wow, it's so underwhelming. It's just, this is pretty good. Personally, I don't like the, I don't know what you'd call it, but the disco sound, the doo doo doo, that appears a couple of times in the song, because personally I feel like it artificially ages the song in a way that is not very flattering, but that is such a minor point that it barely merits mentioning. But yeah, overall, it feels as though it was cut from very similar cloth to the French entry of 2017, but this does for disco what Requiem did for the tango, if I'm remembering my dance styles correctly. Anyway, what might you like about this song? Well, first and foremost, I don't mean this as a backhanded compliment towards previous French entries, but rather, this song, standing on its own, it's an unpretentious bop with a low barrier to entry. What I mean by that is, even if you don't understand the words, it's still a fun, groovy little number that you can still vibe with zero limiting factors. For example, Fulen last year had the Breton language, which may have been, for some listeners, a source of intimidation, and Voila before that was of the very classically French chanson style of song. Neither of those are bad things, of course, it's just that this may be comparatively easier for foreign audiences to vibe with from a standing start by comparison. These are all good things, it's just a matter of how you spin them inside your own brain. This being said, this is still a profoundly and unmistakably French song, as if the language it's sung in wasn't a dead giveaway. There is something in the lyrics and how they're delivered that just unconsciously communicates to me that this couldn't possibly have been sent by, for example, Switzerland or Belgium or Luxembourg or Monaco. Please come back to the contest, we miss you. Not least because of the mention of La Grande France in the bridge of the song. It's not easy to take a style that is, as I just said, internationally accessible and still put an unmistakable cultural stamp on it like this, so very much well done to you, La Zarra, you've managed that. It's not easy. And in fact, let's talk about her herself as an artist. She may well be the central source of this song's character and charisma. While I can't comment on how she might approach performing this song live just yet, because a live version at the time of recording hasn't been released, but the studio version already shows us that she brings the words and the story to life with sass and strength. She ain't having none of your nonsense. She's not asking your permission to sing this song. She is storming in and making her presence known whether or not you're ready for it. And not least for a song with a story like this, that can only ever be a good thing when you're aiming to capture an audience's attention. So, all around, jolly good show. Now, as for things you might possibly not enjoy with this song, I'm going to start with what is definitely the most minor point, and to contradict myself earlier, I suppose it does merit mentioning if it stood out this much to me, but yeah, the disco noise, the doo-doo sort of synthy drum thing. I know it's a really random thing for me to pull the song up on, but even though it only comes up like, 2, 3, maybe 4 times in the entire song, I feel like it adds years to the composition and not in a complimentary way. If you don't think anything of it, this is going to sound like an insanely nitpicky point for me to bring up, but for example, for people like my mother, it turned the song from an oh into an oh, just by that one artistic decision. I understand that this might seem really crazily specific for me to point out, so in all fairness, I do like the percussion in the refrain that sounds a little bit, kitchen disco-y, in the sense that it sounds like the percussion was made by, like, stylish kitchenware and, like, crockery and stuff. And I mean this as a compliment. I like the clinky percussion. I don't like the doo-doo. Some of us have weird brains, okay? Anyway, on that general frequency of minor things that most people won't think twice about, it may simply be a trapping of the French language, or something within Zarra's diction, or the way she sings, or perhaps how softly her cadence has to be in the first half of the song, but in some of the quieter areas here, there are some really disturbing mouth sounds that interfere with the fidelity of the vocals, in such a way that people suffering from misophonia would find it to be extremely unpleasant. Now, that isn't something that the song or the singer should actively be punished for by any means, but it is still part of the song that some people might not like. You know, there's just something really off-putting about hearing the song with headphones and occasionally just this just kind of interfering with the vocals, which is not a deliberate thing. And as I said, it may just be an unfortunate byproduct of some of the syllabary that is demanded of the French language, and of course to some people it won't bother them in the slightest. I'm just aware that misophonia is a thing that some people have, and that section, that aspect, is gonna be difficult for them to listen to. And finally, continuing on that theme of some people it won't affect them at all and for others it's a big deal, I asked around, and one consistent observation that I heard about this song from multiple other people was a general feeling of disconnection, that the funky beat in this song was, in one way or another, out of place. My mother, for example, likes how the intro of the song continues and builds throughout the piece, but feels that the beat layered on top of that is a distraction. And my best friend, meanwhile, feels that the intro sets up for a grand spectacle of a song, and we get that payoff at the end, but that the middle portion underwhelms in comparison. For one reason or another, you may not like the disco twist that's mixed into the song, and that's okay. You might also like it, and that's okay too. Anyway, numbers. As I said at the top of this review, this song came at a coincidentally bad time for me, so I don't know if I would always be inclined to give it a low 7 out of 10, or if that's just the brain fog talking. At my nastiest, I'd call it a 6, but I find that too difficult to justify, so let's just forget about that. The thing is, I find it hard to say all that much about the song, and in saying that I recognise that it sounds like I'm damning it by faint praise. In reality though, I don't mean to imply that there's nothing good to say, but rather, it just kind of washes over me in a way that I find to be mildly pleasant, but really difficult to elaborate on in any meaningful way. This isn't going to stay with me the same way that Fulène did, but, by that same token, it's not something that I feel France should be ashamed of sending. I wouldn't be upset to call this my home country's entry, if, you know, I lived in France. Which I don't. Anyway, how about my thoughts as a juror? Lyrical quality, 2 out of 2. It is very French, I can say that for free. On the whole, it is solidly written, but in and among, there are some absolute banger lines in there that go over and above in their quality. And, also, on a slightly different layer, it's a very well put together song in terms of how punchily the syllables land on certain beats, to make the whole delivery that much more effective. So, yeah, great words, timed very well. Good. You get a 2 out of 2, it's very good. Musical quality, again, 2 out of 2. Relatively low 2, simply because this is another instance of nothing special but not trying to be anything like that, and/or it achieves everything it sets out to do. At my least charitable, I could call it a disco song we've heard before, and I do think the doo-doo disco sound does detract from it, but realistically, there's nothing bad about it. Delivery quality, well, this is hard to say because we don't really have a live performance to judge by, so I'll give it a provisional 1 out of 2, because, yeah, at the time of writing, at the time of recording this, no live version, I can't judge how she sounds outside of a controlled studio setting. Obviously, I could judge how she sings other songs, but then that wouldn't be fair on this one, and that's why I'm inclining towards a 1 and not a 2, but also the whole misophonia thing can also count as a point against her, I guess. There is nothing to worry about, and at worst, it's stuff that can be adjusted in time for the contest, so it's no big deal. As I said, provisional 1. Now, staging potential. I'm gonna say 1, because in not so many words, the official music video doesn't fill me with confidence at this stage. Yes, Zarra utterly owns the space that she's given, but we really do only have her, a comparatively cramped space, and Suri's Tunnel of Love from 2018. And this is one of those songs where too much or too little will reduce the impact the song has. 3 for 3 in today's recording sessions, handle with care, France, but make sure you don't just give us nothing instead. You're gonna need something here, and you'll figure it out. Appeal-wise, 2 out of 2. To keep it brief, there is nothing here to hate. If you like it, you'll bop along happily. If you don't, no big deal. It's not one of those, oh, I'll never get those 3 minutes of my life back songs. At absolute worst, as I said, the disco beat may put you off in one capacity or another, but on the whole, the appeal is broad, so anyone inclined that far against it will kind of be a statistical outlier on the whole. So that gives France a healthy little 8 out of 10 on the technical side, for a combined score of, well, let's see, what is that, 8 and 7? I didn't write this down, I believe that's 15 out of 20. I feel like that's a little bit on the low side, and if you feel that I'm undermarking this, then I don't blame you. I don't really have a way of defending that. Moving on. Right then, is France going in the right direction in the grand scheme of things? I suppose so? This is another case where it looks bad on the face of it that the country had a national final last year, did badly with the song that won it, and then this year ditched it in favour of an internal selection. So there is that to consider, but much like with Slovenia this year, it's not as if that switch has shot them in the foot or anything. Besides that, I mean, France has flip-flopped in and out of having a national final in recent years anyway, so we know that their delegation can, for the most part, be trusted to choose something of competitive quality either way. So, on that basis, yeah, I'm inclined to say that they're doing pretty fine for themselves for the time being. So, would this song qualify if it had to compete in the semi-finals? Once again, to reiterate, Big Five doesn't need to, but what if? For obvious reasons, it's hard to tell in a year like this. So France, they vote in semi-final 1, so we can assume that that's where they would hypothetically have competed if they needed to. They don't, we know it. And as far as I can tell, there's nothing quite like this song in there, so it could stand out, or the Xenia entries could get in its way, I'm not sure. As I said, doesn't matter, automatic finalist, but it doesn't hurt to entertain an idea. The main takeaway from these thoughts, though, is that I would say this song is about 60-40 in terms of where its points will come from, where the juries are going to be appreciative of Zarra's style and clean, sharp presentation, but I think the televote will be more appreciative of the song simply just being a straight-up bop. All in all, I expect this to get a result in Liverpool that more than makes up for France's disappointing finish last year, but by how much, I just don't know. I'll cautiously predict anywhere between 5th and 15th for the time being, and just kind of leave it at that. France has really given us crazy and not very useful data to work with in recent years, what with Voila coming second and Fulen underperforming, so I think this will be somewhere in between, and that's the most I can be sure of. So what about you, lovely people? Have I missed something obvious? Do you have an opinion that I've not said anything about? Because, I mean, these reviews are non-exhaustive. Anyway, listen to the song for yourself, think your own thoughts, have your own feelings, generally be independently minded and have an opinion if you want to, and not having one is also okay, I guess. Where am I going with this? France, I wish you the very best of luck, and I will be interested to see where you end up on the scoreboard in May, because at this point in time there is no predicting it. So, well, good luck to you.